Hello everybody, it's Tim again, here with another movie review, this time for Venom 3, or Venom The Last Dance. Now, just to jump into the Venom films, yes, they're part of the Sonyverse, and the Sonyverse is very controversial in terms of, people's opinions on it or whatever. Like, a lot of people hate the Sonyverse, but to be honest, I think it's kind of overhated. It's just kind of popular to hate on the whole Sonyverse thing. Madam Web, though, that one does deserve the hate. That is an awful film, and it is so bad, it is pretty much laughable. The other films, no. Like, people calling Morbius like one of the worst comic book movies ever made, no, that's ridiculous. Calling any of the Venom films the worst comic book movies ever made, no, that's ridiculous. Overall, I'd give this a 3 out of 4. This is a good Venom film. This is the third film in the Venom trilogy. At this point, you should know what you're getting into with these Venom films. This is not going to be some superhero epic or something. These are just solo films or whatever. Just kind of solo, like 90s B movies type films. Really, it comes down to, if you like Tom Hardy in these movies and you like what he's doing with the Venom character and how he's kind of like camping it up and having fun, you'll probably enjoy these films. I like Tom Hardy. I do think that the movies would, maybe not box office wise, but quality wise, I think that the Sonyverse or whatever would be better if they were like actual R-rated films. Like, if all the Venom films and the Morbius movie and, like, you know, like Kraven the Hunter is, and I don't even know why they bothered with Madam Web, but if all these other ones were all R-rated, like, anti-hero films, and they were like this, you know, edgier comic book universe, standalone comic book universe with these more R-rated, edgier anti-hero superheroes, I actually think this would be a stronger universe and would probably be on better footing than the MCU, at least in terms of like fun entertainment value, than what the MCU is now, anyway. Sorry about that cough. Sorry about that. Seasons are changing. But yeah, I do think it would be on better footing quality-wise. In terms of the movie as it is, though, for what this franchise is, like Morbius, I've said this before. Morbius, I gave it like a 2.5 out of 4. It was all right. It was an all right time killer film. I didn't like it. I didn't hate it. I was just kind of in the middle on it. I thought it was fine. Jared Leto was good in the movie. He's appropriately casted for the Morbius character. He has the right look. His acting is fine. He just isn't given like much to do in terms of like being like a superhero Morbius. And the movie felt strangled in between trying to be like a superhero film with Jared Leto as like the superhero vampire, but also like in like a monster movie, and it felt like it couldn't really find like a tonal balance to that. They needed to let him have more fun in the film. Jared Leto was Morbius, and I think that's where the film's biggest weakness is at. And I think if it was been R-rated, I think it would have accomplished that and it'd been a more fun film. And I think Kraven the Hunter is going to end up being fun. I don't know if it'll be good, but it'll end up being fun. Which, if a movie's fun to me, if it entertains me, that's enough. Like, I don't need a film to be high quality writing if it can be entertaining. Like, movies can make up for problems in scripts if they're entertaining. There's a lot of movies that really aren't technically good films, but they're entertaining, and they work because they're entertaining. The Friday the 13th films, I'm a slasher fan. Most of the Friday the 13th films are not technically good movies. They're mostly the same thing over and over, but they're slasher flicks, so we know what to expect. So they're entertaining for what they are. They're straightforward slasher flicks. Same thing with Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. I love Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's the best action star on the planet, in my opinion. But most of his films, if you break them down in terms of like actually being films, most of them are not great movies. But if you watch them for what they are and accept them for what they are, which is straightforward action films, most of them are good. They're fun for B-flick action films. And these Venom films are B-flick superhero films that feel like something that would have been made in the 90s. That's what they are. I can accept them for what they are. Maybe if you're like a hardcore Marvel fan or hardcore Venom fan, you might be like really pissed off that they're not really like the comics. But I can let that go. I guess it helps that I'm not like I like Venom. I think he looks badass. I'm not somebody who, like, you know, gets an erection over Venom or something and is like, Venom, you got to be like this. You know, I'm like, if you want to be different and make a Venom like superhero film or whatever, or anti-hero PG-13 flick, it should be R. I will say that. But if you want to go that direction, I can get on board with that and just accept it for what it is. In terms of this movie, I would say all three Venom movies are pretty much close to the same quality. I think they're all three out of 4-star films. I think they're all three good, fine, silly, fun B movies that feel like they were made in the 90s. This one is no exception. I will say when Tom Hardy is not on screen, this film does kind of drag when it cuts back to like this military base where they're studying the last of the symbiotes or whatever that are on Earth. And the character Mulligan, who was the cop in the second film, who it kind of got infected by a symbiote at the end. And in the comics, I believe he becomes Toxin, which is like Carnage's son. And here they just talk about how they got Toxin like off of him, or Toxin separated from him, and then he started dying, and then they give him a new symbiote to like keep him alive. And that's something too that's also kind of like a plot hole, because they talked about that in the first film too, how when the symbiote leaves or whatever, the person could be like dying or something, because Eddie was like dying because the symbiote being on him was like draining his life force or some shit in that first one. They never brought that back up. Here they don't really bring it back up either. I mean, because spoiler, Venom dies at the end, and Eddie is just fine after he's gone. So it's like, okay. But I guess maybe the Venom symbiote or whatever is different. Maybe he didn't actively like try to kill Eddie or whatever when he's on him. And this film does introduce like retcons that cause plot holes within this as a trilogy. In the first film, it was clear that the symbiotes just accidentally crash landed on Earth on a meteorite. That was it, pretty much. Or they ran in like a spaceship or whatever. Yeah, it was a spaceship, I believe. And one of them was their Riot, who like wanted to basically take over the Earth and they wanted to eat everybody. That was clearly the plot in that first film. And then Venom turns good. That was it, because he loves Eddie by the end. That was it. In this film, they retcon that to where the symbiotes were actually running away from their home planet, because this character named Null, who's like played by Andy Serkis, and you barely get a few glimpses of him, and they're basically setting him up to be like the Thanos of the Sonyverse or whatever, for when they eventually get to probably like a Sinister Six style Justice League film with all these anti-heroes together like Venom, Morbius, and I don't even know what the hell Madam Web could do in a Sinister Six movie or against this dude. I have no idea. Maybe they can make it work. Shit, I don't know. Or maybe they should just get rid of that one and just like erase it and keep the rest of the characters. I don't know. And Craven, whatever. Craven would be on the team, I suppose. But yeah, so they want to set him up to be like this big Thanos level threat. And it shows Venom like hopping from universe to universe at the beginning. Like at the beginning, he's in the MCU talking to a bartender about Thanos, and he like jumps back to his own universe. So it's like I didn't know he could like universe hop. So right then and there, that's also like a setup for the fact that, yeah, they could easily meet Spider-Man or some shit or whatever at some point if they want to in the MCU. And yeah, Venom supposedly dies at the end, but also at the end after the credits, you see like a little cockroach taking off with like a little piece of, it's assumed, I believe, to be like a piece of the Venom symbiote like on him or whatever. So Venom can just like regenerate from that. It's basically what you get, because they're all like individual entities that can, I guess, probably regrow back into Venom. So yeah, that's basically the idea that you get at the end. It's on like a cockroach and takes off after the bartender who the military takes for some random reason, I guess, to question. So they tase him to take him in, and then at the end, after credits, he walks out or whatever. So it's basically to give the idea that, yeah, Venom can come back, and it's obvious that he will. This movie was a hit. It didn't do as well in the United States, but overseas it did great. It did really good internationally. So it's a hit. Yeah, they'll definitely make another one. It may not be a sequel. They may wait and like just bring Venom back for the team up film. That may be what they do, which I'm fine with that. They do need to. One thing Sony does need to do is start linking these films together more. We need to finally see like Morbius or whatever, or show up in like a Craven movie, or meet Venom or some shit in another sequel or something. They do need to start linking these more. They need to do that. Other characters in the movie, of course, Eddie is on the run because they think he killed this random cop named Mulligan or whatever, who was in the second one at the end, who I was talking about the Toxin thing. And that is one thing that made me mad. I did want to see Toxin in this. It was a disappointment to me that Toxin wasn't in this. But they leave the character open, saying get separated from him, so they could still do like a Toxin film or spinoff, or bring him back in like a Venom 4 or the Sinister Six or whatever, and have him like because I believe Toxin is an anti-hero in the comics. They could have it be like Toxin helping out or whatever. And in the end of the movie, the cop dude like basically sacrifices himself with his symbiote attached to him, his new symbiote, to try to buy Eddie time. And then the ending of the climax is kind of the best part, where all these symbiotes like get loose and they're all like fighting for humanity or whatever to try to save them. And they're all teamed up against these xenophages or whatever, these like hound dog type creatures that can regenerate, that are basically sent by the Null character to get this codex thing that comes when a symbiote resurrects its host or whatever. And they create this new DNA strand, I guess, which is a codex, which has the ability to unlock his universal prison that he's trapped in or some shit. It is a little silly in terms of the plot, but it's like comic book logic. This, like I said, this movie is just carried by Tom Hardy as Eddie and Venom. But if you find them funny and you find them entertaining, you will like this movie. Overall, I will say the whole joke thing with like Eddie and Venom, by this point, but the third movie, this movie offers not much new until the climax with the other symbiotes like in a team or whatever, which is the most fun part of the movie. Up until then, it is kind of like the same old shtick that I saw in the other two movies, which is why I think this is the weakest of the three. but I still think it's an entertaining Venom film for what it is in context of the series. I still think it's a good, entertaining one, but I do think this is the weakest one of the three, just for the fact that it is the third time I'm seeing this kind of shtick again in a row. And there's not really anything new here other than the fact that Venom supposedly dies at the end, but we know he's not really dead. He's gonna be back. So, um, throughout the film, yeah, you got that character Null or whatever who wants to basically take over the universe to be the Thanos type creature and all that, and the Thanos being, and eat the universe and destroy everything. I will say Andy Serkis is like voices the character and everything. It is good. It's fine. I think it works. Um, but he is kind of hard to understand at certain points. But I think the character could like be developed more in some sequels or whatever, or not, well, follow up films or whatever, in a Morbius 2 or some shit, or whenever he shows up again, or in Sinister Six, or whatever. I do think it could work. Um, but yeah, like the Eddie and Venom stuff, he's on the run, and Michelle Williams' character and her like new boyfriend all are just completely written out of here. And I will say I did kind of miss them, but I do like the fact that Eddie never got back together with her. That it leaves it open for him to have like a new love interest. I do kind of like that. They can introduce like a new love interest in a later film. Um, but so he's on the run, and the military's chasing after him because they want his symbiote, because they see the symbiote as a threat. And then he's also being chased by the xenophage thing. He wants the codex or whatever from Venom's symbiote. And they're chasing after him, and then by the end, the only way to stop the things once they attack the military base and whatever is for Venom to basically sacrifice himself. So he basically douses himself in acid after he traps all these xenophages in his goo, and has the military dude there like turn it on, and the acid leaks down on him and disintegrates him along with the creatures. Kind of cool scene. I will say that they hire actors in this who are also in some MCU movies. I don't really get why. Like the dude who plays like the military leader is the dude that played like Benedict Cumberbatch Doctor Strange is like sidekick or whatever in that first movie, or kind of like acquaintance or whatever that worked with him. And then you got another actor in here, Race Ifans, I believe is his name, who also played the Lizard. He showed up in No Way Home, but he was in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I don't know why these actors are here. They both do good. They're fine. But I don't know why they're here as these characters. It just feels like kind of a ploy to get people interested in the film and talking about it because, hey, look, it might have a multiverse connection. It's like, okay. Just, I don't know, kind of seems pointless. I did think Race Ivans was fun in the movie and kind of funny when he was talking about how he wants to meet aliens and everything, and he plays this hippie dude who like gives Venom or gives Eddie a ride. And the ending climax is the best part in the third act. There is this one character played by Juno Temple who is like this. She had a twin brother who they both got struck by lightning and went through her into him and killed him basically. And she's a scientist who's studying the symbiotes and everything. I will say her character is kind of like underwritten, and at times she kind of comes off like she's annoying, where she like doesn't seem to care about human life, and she's like obsessed with the symbiotes. And then by the end, she kind of becomes like a hero, where she gets this symbiote on her, and she gets like this lightning powers or whatever. Which, yeah, coincidentally, she got struck by lightning and she has lightning power from her symbiote. I get it. But at the same time, they try to develop this as if she's like going to be like this really interesting character, and she's really not that interesting, like at all. Like Juno Temple is not that good in this film. She's okay, she's there, but her character's not really interesting. When they try to have like this big dramatic scene at the end where she's like trying to save her other scientist friend or whatever, you do not buy into it. Like this film lives and dies by the Eddie Brock Tom Hardy relationship with him and Venom and his acting. If you like the film, it's because of them. So by the end, Venom is dead. He sacrificed himself, and Eddie is like going to see the Statue of Liberty, which he told Venom they would go see or whatever. And it kind of ends on a sad but sweet note, and then it's over. Yeah, and overall, I'd give this a 3 out of 4 for what these movies are. This is another good, harmless Venom film. I will say it. I do feel like it's the weakest of the three, just because this is the third time I'm kind of seeing the same shtick. So in a way, I'm not really sure if I want a fourth one. If I want more of these. In terms of solo films, but if they bring him back for like a team up or whatever, which I'm sure they will, I'd be okay with that. For like a Sinister Six Justice League type scenario, I'd be okay with that. But I'm not sure if we need more solo Venom films. And in terms of like Juno Temple and a spinoff or something, we do not need that at all. That character is not interesting. Overall, 3 out of 4. Good, harmless B-movie fun that feels like a 90s superhero film. Completely harmless movie. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again.